All right, I'll call the April 9th, 2019 EMS regular meeting, commission meeting. I just wanted to extend a welcome to Lisa Semlek from Hudson Hospital for joining us today in place of Tom. And discussion on possible action on the minutes of January 8th, 2019 regular EMS commission meeting. Everybody get a chance to take a look at the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second it.
And we have a motion to accept and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next we move to the financial report.
I
Go.
I don't have all the pretty charts and all those things done, but Joanne sent out yesterday the statement of revenues and expenditures. Nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, fairly comparable to last year. I think the village's payment is here. I just think it crossed over into March for your first payment.
Well, I signed that check.
Right. So anyway, I think it crossed over into the March. Joanne, we talked to the people from EMS billing, and did they get it to you yet?
I haven't seen it
But anyway,
yet,
so that's
no.
why March isn't here, because we don't have it yet. So this is through the end of February. But you know, the salaries are a little higher than last year, but I know that last year there was some. We had some issues with staffing, and then we resolved it as far as who could work how many hours, that type of thing. So, so revenue expenditures, nothing out of the ordinary. Statement of cash flow. Again, the numbers are comparable to last year, both for January and February. You know, with the payments coming in February for the per capitas, usually the February cash balance is going to be higher because you have the influx of those payments. So I don't have any questions on those.
I had a question on the patient revenue. Patient revenue year to date went from 346,765 down to this year 316 year to date. Is that inter-facility differences?
Could be part of it. Also, it's timing. You know, unlike when it's billed out, when they bill it out is all about timing. So you could have things at the end of February that aren't hitting your revenues until March, depending on when the EMS billing actually bills them out. So,
got it.
But yes, I'm sure potentially some of it is a reduction from that.
Go ahead.
I did a little calculation there. There was a grant in 2018 for $69.10. So what I did was I just compared the $103,781 here, total operating expenses, to that. It's now the revenues rather 21% less.
Right. So if you go up to the net patient revenue, the same thing. That's what Suzanne just did. So if you go up to net patient revenue, it takes out that $69.10 there. So. Yep.
That's 21% less this year. To date, year to date.
And March can be higher. Like I said, it's just a question of how many calls came in and when they're billed out.
Could I ask you about services and costs related in this? Are there any expenses in terms of the RFP process and the lawyer cost on this at all?
Again, it would depend on when the billing comes through. Yes,
Sure.
To answer your question, yes, contractual service would include any legal fees. So those would be included in there, if that's what the question was.
That is what the question
Yes,
is.
so that's where that would appear again in contractual service. We just processed the bill we're in the process of doing the March billing right now. So.
Gotcha. Is that a council decision to where that lands?
It's legal services related to the RFPs have been charged to this. You know, the council could determine it should come somewhere else.
Since you are the administrator, could we get that on the agenda for the next time to talk about that on council?
We can, yeah.
Because I see that as a decision that the council had made
Okay.
in collaboration somewhat with the commission here.
I will get an amount and how much we've spent year to date, and you guys can decide.
Perfect.
So yes, if you determine that 75% of it should go to the council or somewhere else, then we just do a journal entry to move it from the St. Croix EMS fund to.
Right, because I don't want to see that on a balance sheet when it wasn't
Yep.
St. Croix EMS's decision.
I will let Jenny know and I'll.
To operate. Okay. The statement of cash, any other questions on the statement of revenues and expenditures? Statement of cash flow, you want to cover?
If you look at the one from the end of February, it's, you know, your starting cash is a little higher, but cash flow to year to date is very, you know, almost exactly the same. In fact, the difference is probably, well, no, the revenues was the other way, but one thing I have to check on is there should be a few more payments on that ambulance. I think it's paid off sometime here.
I believe so.
I'm not sure, I've got to check and see why that, where it says repayment to city, there should be a couple payments in there, but I'll have to check to see what Brenda did, and so that's maybe why that's not showing up in there. But it would be I mean, it wouldn't be a substantial amount. And then your cash, again, your cash is somewhat higher because of the timing of bringing the per capitas in.
Sure. You say it's a nominal amount. What is nominal?
Even as far as the repayment, it would
Yeah.
be, I assume it'd be the 2017 because it's so much per
Got it.
month.
Okay. And how close? You said it's very close to being paid off? Do you know?
I
Joanne?
thought it was this year.
Yeah, July or August,
Right.
I believe.
But that's done by journal entry, so I'm just wondering if Brenda, before she left, can get that journal entry done. So I will check on that to make sure that gets done.
Got it. Thank you.
I was just wondering, the per capita from municipalities shows 206,875 on the cash flow. But if you look at the year-to-date revenue and expenditures, even if you added on the 31,994 of North Hudson, it doesn't come up to that amount.
If you look at the 117, 190, if you look
Oh,
at
the city.
The city, the Hudson.
Okay,
and
that's
Huntington.
it.
Right, and there's that reimbursement in there too, Suzanne, that should be taken off, yep. And again,
Okay.
I know we've received the payment, it probably clicked into March as far as receipts.
Okay.
But I'll follow up with that, Stan, too, just to make sure that we did get it.
Any other questions on the finance report? All right, I'm not looking for any action there. Thank you, Devin.
Yep.
All right, discussion possible action on RFP by the City of Hudson for exploration and contracting our services in part or in whole. As an update to this group, we had the last meeting of the committee that we now.
Can I interrupt for 1
Yes.
second? Update on RFP for billing.
Yes.
I made contact with them, I have not heard back from them.
Okay.
Brenda at some point had made some changes, and I don't know that response, but so, I just thought of that being on here, so number 5, so.
Gotcha. Well, to your point, I mean, is there any questions on the RFP billing?
They're billing us for what was agreed to.
Right, yes.
We just don't have the final document.
You don't have the final doc?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
understood, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Devin. All right, so discussion and possible action on RFP by City of Hudson for exploration and contracting our services in part or in whole. I guess that was, I don't remember the date of the last committee meeting. That was, I'll look on the calendar here, sorry. That was the 27th.
Over ad hoc.
For the last ad hoc meeting, at the end of that ad hoc meeting, we made a motion to basically dissolve the ad hoc, as we had all the information that we sought for at that point, and that received a unanimous vote, and that we would make a decision in the City of Hudson Council meeting. We had a meeting last night, and we made the motion, and it passed, to begin contract negotiations with Lakeview as a next step in the process. And along with that, along with that motion, to also figure out, you know, sort of what do we do from an employee standpoint as we go through that process. Any thoughts, questions, Dan or
Nope.
Suzanne?
So they're going to start negotiations with Lakeview now,
Correct.
okay? And did the mayor set up a committee, or you got a committee set up for that?
Yeah, so the city of Hudson, so obviously it can't be a negotiation amongst multiple cities, right? So as the village of North Hudson, you would have to work on your own, or however that works, same with town of Troy.
Yeah.
The city of Hudson then, as part of, thank you for saying that, as part of that motion, it's imperative to me that we have multiple elected officials from the city of Hudson to be a part of that process. As opposed, you know, as you take a look at the 2017 sort of history with the Lakeview proposal and the vetting of that was limited of individuals going into that. So we want to hear from multiple facets of elected officials. In terms of timing, you know, we will be meeting as an organizational meeting next week, Tuesday evening, as the city. So at that point, my hope would be that we make a determination of what individuals are part of that process in terms of elected officials. That process, because it is contract negotiations, I just want to be very clear on this one, is that it is, because it's contract negotiation, it is closed session. But it is imperative to me, again, that the actual negotiations, so not just updates of the negotiations, are all held with multiple officials.
But you just said that we all need to do our own contracts with Lakeview, correct?
Correct.
And the village doesn't necessarily have to be in contract.
You don't have to.
Right.
Correct. So I guess I would just ask, as your partner, to see a kind of a wait and see how this contract negotiation goes with the city of Hudson, to see where we get to a decision point. Does that make sense?
Waiting for you guys to make a decision?
You as a partner contracting from the city's service.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, yeah, we could be involved when you start, you know, getting rid of assets or whatever. You're gonna have to start selling off equipment and everything, right?
Correct.
And there's
Wow.
money that we've been kicking in all along, and stuff like that, involved in that too. So I'd be very interested in that.
Yeah, and I'd like to know what's gonna happen to that too, because in the contract, it doesn't say anything about selling off the assets and distributing that to the municipalities that are involved.
In the proposal.
I'm talking about the contract, the 5-year contract
Gotcha.
that we signed.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry. Let me write that down.
Okay. The 5-year contract
Yeah.
that we opted out of,
Mm-hmm.
in that contract, it doesn't say anything about the dispersal of the assets, you know, the revenue from the money from the assets.
Okay. So I guess I would ask the same from the town of Troy as we go through this process, to not make any determinations or any action until we determine as a city what our service looks like after this process. Does this make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Right. I mean, can you take that to your board, I guess, is what my question is.
Sure.
Okay. And Stan, you can take that to your board as well.
Yep.
Please. Any other questions, comments?
What's your time frame?
That is a good question. with the organizational meeting happening on Tuesday, I'd like to see the committee formed from that. I would like to see that process 6 to 8 weeks. To, you know, generally no more than 3 months.
And that's for the decision to
So that's
go with the contract with
right. So
like you or not.
that's considering multiple meetings within contract negotiation, apprising council before we have something that we feel comfortable showing the community what that contract would look like. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I would hope for a decision then. What would that be? May, June.
July.
Yeah, July. End of July, at the latest. Does that make sense?
The contract can be made public to the public?
Yes.
It can be a public forum or a public question and answer forum, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
North Hudson's gonna do the same thing.
What's that?
Well, I suppose you guys don't have a contract to look at or won't, so.
Right, right. It will be, to your point, that'll be a City of Hudson.
It's a thing.
Right.
So, as I understand it, after you've announced that and decided which way you're going to go, if you're going to stay with St. Croix EMS, then we just go on to the end of the contract, the 5-year contract. If you go with Lakeview, then it will be up to the town of Troy to negotiate a contract with Lakeview.
Separately, correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. Sorry, I'm just catching up on notes here. Any other further questions about the RFP process?
What about the staff that currently works for St. Croix EMS? What's the plan?
In terms of,
Anything,
right,
everything.
yeah. I will, as you saw, we discussed that a little bit. I think we need to discuss that as a group in more detail. I think I would like to push for that discussion. You know, this is just one council person's pitching this, but I would like to see that in the next organizational meeting at some point. So the next Tuesday meeting, I would like to have that conversation as a council on what we do on the employee end. Like I said, I'm one council person. That would be just a recommendation from my end, in the hopes that everybody agrees that we need to have that conversation sooner rather than later as a group.
What's the time frame on that?
So going back to the minutes to last night, Devin talked about the previous agreement, but I think the feeling around the table, my understanding from the feeling around the table was that that offer needs to be
Was a slap in the face. I'll say
needs
it.
to be right, needs to be more fair, right, to the process. So when you say time frame, are you asking to when you will know
I don't care.
what the plan is?
I want staff to know. This has been a humongous secret with St. Croix EMS. Slap in the face last night as far as the way stuff went. I mean, my phone blew up last night. What now? Do we even bother staying? I can't tell you to make that decision or not.
Mhm.
But, I mean, yeah, stuff's been communicated through me, but I don't know anything. They watch all the same meetings that I was at. There's been, we've been promised meetings by you from staff since you took over that chair,
Mhm.
and haven't seen them. I mean, staff feels left out in the dark as far as what's the process. Yeah, we're going into contract negotiations, and you guys are gonna negotiate as a city, but do you have anybody with any medical experience that's gonna sit in there and make sure that you're getting a good contract? As they praise up and down that the last contract that the city got was absolutely phenomenal. Not the one I read, unless I got a different one.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of talk last night about, I'll get into that later, but I don't know. You guys got a lot of backpedaling to do to talk to staff.
Okay.
I failed as their leader, so I guess it's up to the city to step up, and hopefully you guys can succeed, so.
You failed as a leader. How?
Absolutely, I did.
How? How?
I was at last night's meeting just like you were. So, I feel I got stabbed in the back by city council. I feel like I believe I was set up for failure, and it succeeded. And I think I have a couple council members that agree with that as well. I failed, the other 40, 39, 41 people that work here. So there should be absolutely zero reason that this goes to Lakeview. Zero, in my book. They said right now, flat out last night, response times don't matter. Okay? And, care doesn't matter. I get the March 9th thing thrown in my face again last night by a city council member.
So March 9th.
Yeah, the last special city council meeting / witch hunt
Mhm.
that I was involved in where, in the city of Hudson and in the village of North Hudson, that gets brought up again. Litigation gets brought up again in regards to that, and that we're not holding true to our contract. Well, there's nothing, I've read the contract, you guys have all read it, there's nothing in our contract that says anything about if we'll have 1 ambulance on duty or if we have 37 on duty. The whole RFP was changed by saying, we want 2 trucks, 24/7, 365. We want a career department. We tried for a career department in 2018. Got told no, costs too much money. But now that's what the city wants. So people can't work another job. Pretty sure you have a full-time job, including all the meetings you do here. It's pretty much 2 jobs, right?
Mhm.
So it's kind of a double standard, I think. Because it's hard to dedicate a lot of time to both spots, isn't it? And make sure you get everything done.
It is. But what my priority and what I want to see prioritized is the care within Hudson. That's all I was saying.
Is there any jeopardy with the care that's in Hudson now?
No.
Obviously, there's a lot stated last night that there was, but
Well, and we can move on to the next agenda item and talk a little bit about that if you want.
I think the next agenda item was
Or
number 6. I think that's kind of null and void right now.
Yeah, number 6. Any other comments about the RFP process?
I'm done.
Okay. Discussion, possible action on ambulance statistics to be provided on an ongoing basis. So this really stemmed from some questions that I had about what we look at from a statistics standpoint, not just staffing levels, but just looking broader. How many ambulances do we have fully staffed, ready to take calls? And this sort of stemmed from that special meeting where we talked about what had happened in that. And we had one staffed ambulance. So I asked Joanne to put some numbers together. I did make enough copies. I don't know if you should have gotten this as part of the commission, right? Not the commission, but the, oops, I think I made, maybe not. Okay, I'll give you my copy. So this is our staffing, so by shift of how many ambulances we had fully staffed, just so that we have visibility to that. Thank you, Joanne, for putting this together. I realize that that's a manual process to put that together, and I appreciate that. So as you look in January, February, and March, I guess my concern are the spots. Now, when you do the math, it's about 91% fully staffed ambulances. My concern is I would like visibility as we go to when we are one staffed ambulance. Just for my knowledge base, is that possible?
Anything's possible.
Okay.
Depends on what the repercussions are gonna be.
The repercussions?
Yeah. If I only have one staff truck.
I guess I would say I would rather have knowledge of that than not have knowledge of that.
And you want the knowledge for just peace of mind, or?
And any other action that needs to be taken?
As far as?
I would like to see 2 staffed ambulances at all times. I understand that can't.
Then stop the RFP process, leave St. Croix EMS alone, and I'll fill all 3 trucks, 24/7, 365. And I'll even have a first responder group in the city. I can't do anything staffing-wise when this service is up in the air. I don't, unless you have something magical power or something that nobody knows about uncertainty in a business, about whether you're gonna have a job or not, that thinks people are gonna come pouring in the door to work. How do you expect me to staff now when, after the vote last night?
So where this concern stems from, Josh, is hearing at that special meeting that we had not staffed that second ambulance, and you were okay with that.
I was,
Is the
100%.
Okay.
Because it's called being being fiscally responsible with a budget.
And that's where the line that I'm drawing to saying I'm not okay not knowing that, and at a public forum, and then to be asked, quite frankly, by the chair of public safety, did you know this?
And I guess question should have came to, whatever my position is here, should have came to me before this special city council meeting to get clarification, instead of holding it in an open forum, in an open meeting. Question should have came to me and been asked, regardless of the situation. I understand your concern with the one truck, but
That's all I'm saying. I'm not talking about that situation,
I've heard-
which was still a 6-minute response time, right? 6 or 7 minute
depends on who you
response time about what that conversation was about.
Mhm.
My only concern coming out from that meeting was that we didn't have a second staff truck, and that we were okay with that. But I didn't know that. Does that make sense?
not really, but
You said you were okay with one staffed ambulance.
yeah, because that's what the city's been claiming that they've wanted since this whole RFP process started, even before.
Okay, let's talk about that. Who said this?
There's plenty of recorded meetings where the mayor has asked, what about one truck? What about dropping to 1.5 trucks? Don't know until you try it. Tried it, failed, I got burnt for it, and now we moved on. But the mayor, mayor denied it flat out in that meeting, so.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not remember a council meeting where we took a council vote to say we were okay with 1.5 trucks. It may have been the mayor asking, pontificating on what could be if the village of North Hudson and the town of Troy are out. It may have been just ideas around it, but I do not remember a vote that said St. Croix EMS go down to 1.5 trucks.
I don't have a choice with my staffing levels. So,
I understand that. I'm talking about trying. I'm talking about not saying in a public meeting without talking to the EMS commission chair, without talking to the public safety chair, to say, hey, I'm kind of just staffing as is, and I feel that 1.5 trucks is okay, or 1 truck on.
careful putting words in my mouth. So,
Explain. Yep.
you're saying that I'm not trying to staff ambulances. Eric, how many emails do I send out a week about staffing trucks? How many emails does Kerner send out? So there's 2 people. How many emails do I send out for staffing?
Okay. Fair point. I understand that you're trying, but you said
Correct.
that
I
you were
said-
okay with
I
1
am.
ambulance.
I am. I'm not gonna, my staff that I have left, that has stuck through all this, whatever you'd like to call it, are beat. They're wore down. And I'm not gonna beat and wear them down more to the point to where I'm gonna start losing employees. That's my point. And it's funny how all this stuff comes up in meetings. It's not, hey, hey Josh, can we talk about, staffing and what you said? No, it comes out in a public meeting. Granted, yeah, it came out in a public meeting upstairs,
Are you talking about the special council meeting?
whichever meeting you want to talk about. This meeting today, the special city council meeting, that was, it's never a phone call or an email. Hey, what's going on? Or, hey, what's up? Nothing. It always comes out in a meeting, especially when all this stuff's going on.
So I guess I failed in asking you a question whether we're staffing 2 ambulances on purpose. Or staying.
It is doing the best I got with the resources that I have. And that in the deck of cards that I've been dealt. So I take on 99% of the shall we say failure in this process, but I think the city needs to eat at least 1% of it. I mean, I don't know any business. I'm sure Lisa, if they say, well, hospital's closing, how many nurses are you going to get to stay? Or there's a possibility of, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I mean, it's in any business. I mean, if you say that, your job's in jeopardy, what's the first thing people are going to do? And we learned this in 2017, did we not? 2018. They will go where they have to go in order to, make sure that they have money coming in.
Gotcha. Can I get your assurance, Joss, that you will do everything in your power? I appreciate the time and energy that you're putting in. Can I get your assurance that you're going to absolutely unequivocally try to staff 2 ambulances 24/7?
Yep.
Thank you. So I added this line item. I didn't know if there were certain aspects that you haven't seen, Stan, or you haven't seen, Suzanne, in this forum, what you would like to have visibility to. As we went through the RFP process, and we asked all sorts of questions of every proposal, is there anything that you do not have access to, that you're not given in the commission, that you would like access to?
Well, the run reports and, just, staffing and run reports is something that we should see. I mean, that way we, you know, have something to compare.
When you say run reports, though,
Who, what, where, when, why, how, you know, type of thing, where they're going to and from, you know, I mean, type of thing.
So you want addresses that we responded to?
What's that?
You want addresses that we responded to?
No, addresses, you don't need to do addresses. I mean, you know, to, you know, North Hudson, to Troy, to, you know, I mean,
So you want just number of calls into North Hudson?
number of calls, times and calls and stuff like that. I should have brought the, you know, the data that I've seen from Lakeview on all of the different reports that they you know, they make. There's a lot of information there that, and that's just, every time that they show up at a meeting, that information is there. We're here, it's like, well, we get the financials, but we don't get to see who's running, what, you know, what's running, or how many buses.
All you had to do was ask for it, Stan.
Well, that's the point I'm making, Joanne, is that
And you never
don't
asked
have,
for it.
You don't have to ask for it with Lakeview. I mean, that's,
Well, that kind of a report, I'd like to see the distance, you know, how far away that, that call was from the,
okay.
you know, from the point of leaving here.
So you want info like this?
Well, ultimately, and I say this as a constituent, you guys need to decide what your KPI
And
is.
that?
I mean, you know, going over
Yeah, that.
call, you know, run times, how quick you get there. I mean, that means really nothing, because you have no idea where the ambulance came from, how far away.
the
it
weather and
was.
everything like
Your-
that.
your- I mean,
Mhm.
you know, your KPI is patient outcome, and that's really what it is. You know, you can look at all the numbers in the world, and, you know, was it a non-emergent call, was it an emergent call, where was the ambulance, how far away was it? You know, some calls we go to, you know, we get there and it can, you know, it's like some of the nursing homes. We can be on scene, but it's another 3 minutes for us to walk through the facility to get to the patient.
Well, I think, you know, noting the distance away from the EMS station to the call is important, because that gives you an idea what, you know, what the real response is for the distance. And we can't keep track of the weather. You know, I mean, we probably wouldn't keep track of the weather that day. But
Right.
I think that's important, but
We talked sorry.
go ahead.
We talked a little bit about this, Josh, and you taught me a lot when it comes to run reports. Obviously, you have to have redaction because of HIPAA violation, right? So
Correct.
you can't give addresses, you can't give names, you can't even say what the call, nature of the call, right? Is there a narrative that you guys currently do in your run reports that could be given to commission?
No,
No?
that's
No.
HIPAA.
No part of the
That
run
would be a
report.
violation.
And when I say narrative, I'm not talking about patient narrative, that whole entire scope, but something similar to what Suzanne's asking about. This was the distance. I mean, just whoever was on that truck, just a quick narrative, a couple of sentences about, you know, sort of the distance, the time it took, just so that we have a little bit more rich information, instead of just looking at a number and saying, you know, oh, that's a 13-minute response time, but at the end of the day, it was somebody broke a finger and called an ambulance. You know what I mean?
The only distance we record is loaded miles. That's when we have
Loaded miles.
the patient in the truck
Yes.
into the
Gotcha.
facility.
Okay. I mean, is that
That's part
Is
of our reporting.
that burdensome to do something just
No, we
quick,
can
just
pull
to?
that report.
I can do, I mean, we'll have to take all the calls for the month for each municipality and figure out the distance from here to the call.
Gotcha.
There's no report I can pull for that. It's all manual stuff.
You could probably do that with Google.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
But each call, no.
I mean, I
You
can
know, it
get-
wouldn't be a bad idea to give the weather on that day, especially in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're doing the report after the call, or at the end of the day, you're making, you know, you're indicating what happened at each call, for each call. Because weather does play a big part. You know, we look at this later and we say, how come that took so long? Nobody seems to remember what, you know, that we had, over 2 feet of snow on the ground this winter.
Mhm.
And that had a big effect.
Is that something, in your opinion, and I know we're just discussing this, so I know you probably maybe don't have an answer, but is that something that whoever is on the truck could create, or do you see that having to be somebody like you or Joanne doing that after the fact?
It'll be an after the fact thing.
Gotcha.
I'm not gonna require crews to do that, no.
Right, because that's an added workload to that crew at that time. Okay. Is there anything else that you would want to see on there? On that type of narrative? Because you can't even talk patient and outcomes on that,
Can't do anything.
right?
I mean, nature of the call, well, you can do nature of the call, but you can't have anything else on there.
Can you indicate whether they were transported or not?
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay to report?
Address doesn't matter, but
Mhm.
it's not really HIPAA, so.
Address doesn't matter? I thought it does.
Not really. I mean, there's no patient name attached to that. I mean, people in Scannerland sit there and listen to it all day long. If it was a HIPAA issue, you'd get Hudson EMS, you needed at.
Mm.
That's all you'd get. You wouldn't get the address, you wouldn't get medical history over the radio, you wouldn't get anything.
Lisa, anything from your perspective that would be helpful from an ER standpoint?
Can you talk about critical nature of a patient, whether it's critical versus a?
We can with the dispatch code that we're given from dispatch after they EMD the call, whether it's an alpha response or an echo response. I mean, an echo response this morning. So we can give that,
Mhm.
but a lot of the stuff that we don't get if dispatch. If obviously we know if law enforcement calls, it doesn't get EMD'd.
Mhm.
If some layperson doesn't want to answer questions, it won't get EMD'd. So it's only the people that they can keep on the phone. They can do that. I mean, that's just all manual. We'll just have to pull it all manual because there's no way that we don't put our dispatch codes in our reports. So even if we did, there's no way we can pull that data out of there. We'd have to look at each individual call. Can add it to the billing sheet and they can write it on there.
But you could say if it was a transport to the hospital, right? To the ER.
That sheet right there in front of you will tell you if it's transport or not.
And which care facility? I mean, 9 times out of 10 you're going to hospital, or to Hudson Hospital, right? So that wouldn't necessarily be a piece in there. Could we do, I mean, obviously we're just throwing this out there. Could we do something that looks, within the next couple of weeks, something that looks at the previous week, just to sort of see if that makes sense to the commission? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Meaning I don't want, we meet in another month or whatever, and we're looking at the entire month, and then we're going, well, maybe we didn't need to see that, or maybe we want to see this, or maybe we want to see that. Just wondering if we could work up something, just a simple email to the other commission members. This is sort of like, this is what it would look like. I call call it a transport narrative, or, yeah, narrative's probably a bad term though, because you call narrative like inpatient care, right? So, okay. Is there anything else that you guys would want included in that? I know I've asked this before, but just double checking. All right. Okay, any other questions on that? I don't know if we need a motion to do that.
To do it.
To direct St. Croix EMS to,
Just a request, I would think.
yeah.
Present
Okay.
information.
All right. Are you okay with that, Josh? Okay. Operations Supervisor report.
Don't have much really, just been working on, going through the RFP process. Calls to date through through yesterday, 404 total calls. 15 of those were transfers. Some out of Hudson, majority out of New Richmond.
When you say majority, 9 or 10 of them, or?
Probably.
Gotcha.
Upcoming events we're working on, so but I don't know what the status of those are yet until this decision is made in the time frame, so kind of in limbo. As far as the prom crash for the Hudson High School and bike rodeo and stuff that we do in partnership with the hospital and stuff, so pretty sure the bike rodeo will be out for us, but
Mm-hmm. So again, you're not sure if you'll be able to staff that?
not staffing it. I don't know if we'll be here to do it,
Oh,
so
got it.
I've been communicating with Krista at the Hudson Hospital and making her aware of the processes going on, and
Mm-hmm.
so
And when is the hospital piece? What is that date?
June.
Well, we were gonna do, from what, the last email I got from Krista was that they were gonna video the prom crash, or the hospital scene at the
Mhm.
hospital.
Next Thursday.
Yeah, next Thursday. I knew it was coming up soon.
I see.
So then when the prom crash occurred,
Mhm.
because students couldn't see the scene itself, they would be
Right.
able to see it on the screen.
Gotcha.
June 9th is the slated time for the bike rodeo.
Gotcha.
Slated date. Like I said, staffing's going okay. By your report you got 91%.
Yep. How's it been since then? Do we know? I haven't seen anything since the March 15th.
I think it's pretty much been the same. I mean, it hasn't been it's not been any
No
worse.
huge, okay. Okay.
But it will start, I mean, with summer coming and kids getting out of school, the farther we get into summer, I mean, it'll get a little worse, but
A little tougher to staff, you mean? Okay.
as kids are off school and, parents that have free time during the week don't have free time during the week, and as kids are home and vacations and other family stuff, so. Play it by ear, see how we go.
Thank you, Josh. Any questions for Josh on the operations report? Future agenda items. I suppose we should put the RFP billing question mark on again. Update to contract negotiation should be another.
Can you even discuss anything about that though? It's all in closed session?
I think it would be good to have it on the agenda in terms of a timing. You keep asking me about time frame. I'm throwing time frames out there when we're actually in the midst of it. You know, what does this look like? Does this look, you know? So I guess from a timing standpoint, because you're right, you can't talk, we won't be able to talk about details about that. Financial report, operations report. I'd like to get a review in of this new, I need a different word for it, not narrative, but
Summary?
what was that?
Summary, maybe?
Summary. Yeah, transport summary,
Call summary,
call summary.
response summary, whatever you want to call it. I'll figure out something to call it.
Gotcha. So the next meeting, time and date, we have to figure out, I would say, do you think, Josh, we could see or have visibility to this new report sometime on the week of the 22nd? That's 2 weeks from now. Does that give you enough time?
Should.
Okay. So if we see that via email, I would like to see us meet the week of April 29th, the last week of April, beginning of May. 29th, 30th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd. And Suzanne, I realize we don't have,
Well, whoever's assigned will have to
You'll
determine if
pass
they can
on.
make it or not.
yeah, that's a good point. Stan, what would work for you?
The week of what week? You mean?
Sorry, April 29th?
29th week?
30th, beginning of.
30th looks good.
Okay.
Or Thursday, it's a Tuesday, Thursday. Either one of those would be all right.
Looks like I'm free on Tuesday the 30th. Yeah. Let's
We'll
do,
take it.
let's do Tuesday the 30th.
9.
Yeah, you like this time? I like this time. Joanne,
Yep,
you're good with
that's
that?
fine.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned.
Just like to thank Suzanne for her time
Yeah, same here.
on the EMS Commission and support of the service, so it's been appreciated.